Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our weekly webinar series, Embracing Change. So today we have Jonathan all recharged from his wonderful holiday in Spain. He just informed that he just made it in time before anybody decided to enforce a quarantine on him. And he's recommended a book, which I think we will send together with the recording, that I assume was started in Portuguese and translated with different titles in French and English. So we'll share that with all of you when we send the recording. So today we're going to talk about inner wealth, right? And what is it? What does it mean? Obviously different maybe to different people. Is it challenging to access? And if so, why? And what are some of the tools that are going to be able to help us access that and build in that space? So Jonathan, welcome back. Always an honor and privilege to spend time together. I know we do a lot of work together with the various families that we serve. So tell me, I know you're refreshed, look like nice and tan. Some of us tan as we play tennis and go for treks. Others suffer and go to Ibiza. We all feel for you, Jonathan.
Thank you. Thank you, Faisal. Great to see you again, and delighted to be able to reconnect with all of you, wherever you are. First of all, I hope you're safe, you and your families, because obviously the world is still in a very precarious place. So first thoughts to you and your family and your well-being. Inner wealth, in pursuit of inner wealth. Why this subject and why Faisal and I are going to talk about it? Maybe I'll give you 1 minute on my background just to explain. I'm a New Zealander who lived in 6 different countries before the age of 18. So a very sort of unstructured life, which is probably why I chose law to study at university, to get some structure. I studied law and then became a lawyer and had the great privilege of spending 15 years protecting the material wealth of some of the wealthiest families in the world, multimillionaires and double-digit billionaires. Fantastic experience, but 2 things happened. One was that I was noticing that however well I was protecting the wealth, I was observing families having issues and sometimes self-destructing from the inside. And I thought, I'm protecting wealth, but I'm not actually working where it really will make a difference to all of these family members. And the second phenomenon was that even though I was successful, I had a partner and a very exclusive Geneva law firm and wonderful clients, I felt empty on the inside. So I had outside success and wealth, but on the inside, I was feeling empty and alone and not in the right place. So these 2 phenomenon made me change from being a lawyer to becoming a coach. And my journey has been one of going from, let's say, outer wealth to inner wealth, not just for myself, but for the families that I served before and new families that I serve now. So wealth has always been there, but the focus has changed a lot. So that's just the background of why I'm talking to you about inner wealth. And Faisal and I, we live in this space, right? Every day we are totally connected towards well-being, towards health, towards wealth, from a very holistic perspective. And that's why I want this hour to be a dialogue between us, where we're going to bounce off each other and following the loose structure which Faisal explained to you. Okay, so if everyone's okay with that, we're going to get stuck in. And maybe a good place to start, Faisal, is to define inner wealth, because as you said, it's such a personal thing, right? It's like if I asked you to define life or business, I mean, it's so wide. But let's start with wealth before going to inner wealth, because I looked up the Webster Dictionary to see what they said about wealth. And they say that it is an abundance of valuable possessions or money. Okay, that's what wealth is, according to Webster.
I like the abundance. I don't know about the rest.
Okay. Yeah, possessions or money. Okay, or a plentiful supply. Yeah, go for it.
All right, go ahead. A plentiful?
Or a plentiful supply of a particular desirable thing.
So it's all material. It's all worldly.
Absolutely. Yeah, interesting. Huh? So if we build on that, I found a definition of inner wealth just to see, the different perspective. And this is what I found: a rich pool of compassion, wisdom, and other non-material values that lie within us.
Okay. Now.
Yeah. And I went, oh, that's getting closer to what we're talking about, right? Because the focus is within, and it's, let's say, intangibles, but things that we feel that are so powerful in us. With your permission, Faisal, I'm going to go for a definition. Hopefully, okay? All right. So my definition is living in a space of fulfillment. As the definition of inner wealth. And I'm going to take you through why that definition, and then ask you to come up with your definition or comments. Yeah. Living in a space of fulfillment, where the key word is fulfillment. Yeah. Feeling full, feeling filled, feeling complete, feeling whole, as a wealth which just allows us to be one, literally with ourselves. Living in a space of fulfillment. Why living? Because life is a time period, right? It's not a destination. The destination of life is, unfortunately, death, right? But life is a time period. So living shows us that actually inner wealth is not a destination to reach. It's a process by which to live. It's the journey, not the destination, okay? And living in a space of fulfillment. Why did I choose space? Because we need to make room for it. Society is fantastic at taking our attention towards outer material wealth, right? Look at the definition in the dictionary. Look at what success looks like in society. It's got figures behind it, right? It's got assets and things like that. So living in a space of fulfillment confirms that it's a process, that we need to make space for it. And actually, it's the process of filling ourselves up on a regular basis from within. What do you think, Faisal?
No,
you like it?
I think I love it. So living clearly, aligned, fulfillment. I use more the word meaningful, which is the same, because that brings growth, that brings contribution, and that brings love, right? The three elements of living in a different, in a state of consciousness that I know that you love to continue to be in. In terms of space, expansive, right? So that again brings in the space that there's, and the growth where it's always an evolution and we continue to expand. And of course, as you said, process, and it's the alchemy, right? It's the alchemy of, the first time I flew to bury someone who had passed away from stage 4 cancer, and I came back. And when I came back, my former spouse said, that process has created an alchemy for you that you will no longer be the same person. So an expansion of not only the value of life, but the value of that process, of that closure, of understanding. I mean, you said death is the destination. Well, death is the destination of the body, not the soul. Right?
Correct.
It's the beginning of a new beginning. Now, we won't go there into religion because I might get crucified because my mother is in the other room. Okay. All right. So, but no, I love it. I think, whether it's meaningfulness, whether it's fulfillment, whether it's space, whether it's expansiveness, whether it's journey, as you said, that the process, whether it's alchemy, we're talking the same, Now, what are the elements to create that filling, as you said, right? The fulfillment.
So, thank you for giving me the transition. So I break it down into 3 ingredients, okay? Now, again, this is very personal, but we have to start with something, and the aim is that everybody listening has food for thought, can agree, disagree, etc.
Please put in your questions, comments in the chat, in the Q&A as we go, please. Go ahead.
Yeah, that would be fantastic. So 3 elements that make up this living in a space of fulfillment. Number 1, healthy body. Come back to that. Number 2, healthy mind. Okay. And number 3, healthy heart. Okay. So I'm going to take you through each of them and ask for your comment. So healthy body, in terms of inner wealth, is a body that allows you to function. Where your body, as your vehicle, is an asset rather than a liability, that helps you do things, that helps you experience things, which helps you do sport, to move, etc.
Go to Ibiza, lie on the beach. Don't forget that.
Going to Ibiza on the beach, absolutely. And critically, being comfortable in one's body, because a lot of people struggle or suffer with their body, meaning they don't feel comfortable in their body. So having a healthy body is not just sort of the food you eat, the sleep you have, how you take care of it, but also saying, I'm okay in it. I'm not perfect. I never will be. And this is the body I have. Okay. So healthy body in a very wide sense is one of the key elements of living in a space of fulfillment. And obviously healthy body, we're talking about health, which obviously you know a lot more about than me, especially with the experience you've been through yourself and with some of the families. So that's very much a core element. And when you're not in a healthy body space, pretty much the rest of the world disappears, right? Because you realize what's truly important. All right. So before going to healthy mind, your reactions to that?
No, I think that's perfect. I mean, I don't like the word function, because I think it's beyond function, right? I think it's really, how do I create it to a space of thriving, right? How do I, again, like you said, fulfilling, and you've talked about a process, right? It's how can we push the body to expand to its capability, right? So it's me versus me, but again, that's why we have Qi in the brand, right? Qi is energy. Without energy, we are nothing. And I think that's what you're referring to. But I think what you hit on very importantly is the relationship with my body, which is the beginning of the relationship with myself, right? And the gratitude and the appreciation and the respect and honor that without the respect for this body that's going to take me through this journey called life, I will not be able to achieve that fulfilling that you talked about, the three elements. So I love it. Love it so far.
Good. Okay. Healthy body, onto healthy mind. So we have this amazing supercomputer in our head, luckily, right? Which allows us to get up in the morning and do all kinds of things, and it gets us to the end of the day, and that cycle repeats over and over again, right? Amazing supercomputer. The supercomputer, the mind, is focused on our performance and on our survival. Okay? Survive, but also perform. And we're paid in society for our performance, right? For what we bring to the table in terms of whatever we do. What I mean by healthy mind is that we got to understand that the mind is the hardware, all right? The brain is the hardware, and we have a consciousness that is the software. But a lot of people confuse and give all the power to the supercomputer, which means that the mind is basically acting as the computer and as the software, making all the decisions, right? Okay. And that's why I say healthy mind, because we can have a fantastic mind, but if it's overrunning our activities, because it's always chasing performance, it's always going to try and get you to do more during the day. So your list of 25 things, if you manage to save time, your mind's going to say, right, well, Jonathan, tomorrow we can do 30 things and then 35 things. And we get into the cycle of having an unhealthy mind, which means we're using it, but it's actually controlling us. And we're in a state of stress, or we feel we're not in control of anything, and we're always sort of running after time. So healthy mind, where we realize that the supercomputer is there, it's great, it's the hardware, but it shouldn't be the software. Over to you.
I'd like you to bring consciousness into that. So how will consciousness be able to not have the mind rule us, right, and dictate versus us and drive us? Can you bring that into the table, or is that where the heart's going to come in?
That's where the heart is. You're giving me great transitions. Fantastic.
That's what I thought, because that's okay. So why don't you talk about the heart, and then we put the picture together.
So healthy heart. So I'm not talking about a healthy bodily heart. I'm talking about connecting to the heart. The heart is where our identity is. It's where our purpose comes from. And literally it gives us the gift of life, right? If we didn't have our heart working, pumping blood around the body, we wouldn't be here. And so this is often a neglected part in terms of the inner wealth journey, because the mind is so loud and we get paid for the mind and we're told to use the mind, that the kind of the heart is there, but the volume's been turned off on the heart and the volume's been turned up on the mind. So consciousness for me is being aware of who you are and of things around you. Okay, we're made up of a body with nerves and chemical substances and organs, etc. But we're so much more than the sum of our parts, right? Okay, because, you know, add this all together, create a consciousness comes out of this, which is more than the parts themselves. And where we're lucky is that we are one of the most evolved consciousnesses, if that word exists, in the world. At least, which is why we are the dominant species, right? Even though we're not the strongest, we're not the fittest and things like that, it allows us to dominate, sometimes very badly, the earth. But that's another discussion. So the healthy heart means that I know who I am. I have a sense of my purpose. I'm conscious that I am alive, I exist, I have an essence, that I impact other people, but that I'm part of a whole as well, that I'm connected to everybody else. Because at the end of the day, we're all matter and energy, right? We're different intensities of energy, coming back to what you were saying. So having a healthy heart means that in your daily life, you've got a really good balance between your mind, which is fantastic, and your heart, which is also fantastic. And in a lot of people, there's a fight going on between the two where they're competing for space. That creates a tension when in fact, these two powerful forces, what we want them to do is to work together. And you and I met on that basis, on the basis of heart in London a couple of years ago, talking about heart and mind. And then you showed me your book, which had heart and mind in it, and I knew you and I would be best friends forever. So that's the third component. Have I answered your question about consciousness?
Yeah. So now you're saying that there's obviously you talk about the fight, right? But obviously we all know now through the Heart Math Institute that the messaging from the heart to the brain is thousands of X versus the brain to the heart, right? That's the reality. So now let's take that a step further. I know you're going to bring into it. The next step is now the difference between thought and clarity and feeling and emotion during that battle. Are people able to, how do they ascertain the difference, right? Because remember, a thought is just, it's just a thought, right? And then either you acknowledge, let go, and move on, versus, and same thing with an emotion. It's an emotion is something that's coming up based on an experience, based on the meaning you've just given to something, but a feeling is a lot deeper, right? So you're saying you have the mind, which is one part, right? There's obviously the heart that gives it consciousness, which is meaning. Is it direction? Is it substance? What is it? What is the heart doing? For those who are trying, because consciousness is used so much, I want them to have a little more tangible from your perspective.
Yeah. Okay.
Does it give it direction? Does it give it foundation? What does it do for the mind?
So in terms of the order, the heart for me is the software when I was referring to the mind being the hardware. Okay. Everything should go from the heart to the mind, not the other way around.
Okay. Well, the statistic is showing that's the direction. Not that everybody's listening, but that's where
So let me make it very practical. It's the lawyer in me that sort of comes and structures it. When we're in the mind, we're often doing things like we're using our experience to make decisions. We're doing pros and cons, thinking about impact, outcome, things like that. Very rational, very analytical.
Yeah.
That's the mind. What I help people do, because a lot of people don't know how to access their heart, is I take them in to help them access criteria, which I believe is in the heart, namely your values, your talents, and your aspirations. Okay. And I call it the power of 9. When they've identified their 3 core values, their three greatest talents, and their three aspirations, what I invite them to do is to say, when you're taking a decision, you go to the mind, but also go to the heart in whatever order you want, so that you are bringing the best of these two powerful forces to bear on decisions that you are making on a daily basis, right? Takes a bit of practice, but the problem is most people have no idea what's in the heart. I go around the world and I ask people 4 questions, Faisal.
Okay. Yeah.
One, what are your core values? What are your greatest talents? What are your aspirations? And what's your vision of success or happiness, whatever you want to call it, right? 99% of people cannot answer me.
All 4 or can't answer one of them?
Well, I can tell they sort of course they can answer me, but I can tell that they're thinking kind of on the spot.
Okay.
The values come out. Let's say they come out the most. Talents, surprisingly, don't come out, because it's as if, you know, talents is, this is our genius, right? This is what makes us great. This is what, these are the things that we do without even knowing, you know, I am able to connect dots and see patterns. I don't know how I do it. It's one of my talents. Even identifying talents and then saying them to me, people go, oh, but I don't want you to think I'm arrogant or something like that. And I'm going, I'm not going to think you're arrogant. I want to know what you're great at. What's your genius?
I want you to own it.
Why are you here on this earth, if not to express your genius and help all the rest of us sort of, you know, benefit from that? So, and aspirations, looking towards the future, I ask people, who do you want to be? What do you want to do? And what do you want to have? Okay, be, do, and have. 3 triangle there, 3 aspects. And most people haven't thought about that. So the conclusion I've come to is that most people spend a hell of a lot of time in the mind, don't go down to the heart, have not identified what truly makes them tick, and therefore live in a state where they are frustrated by a lack of clarity or a lack of inner confidence, especially when there's money involved. You know, is my value based on me, or the money I have, the wealth I have? People overreact to things, they don't understand why. And actually understanding how the mind and the heart works and getting them to work together gives you an understanding, going, I've just overreacted. You know why? Because someone's just kicked me in my core value number 1. So of course I'm going to overreact, right? So voila, is that, I'll stop there.
So now do you see are you seeing the same pattern even when people are in what we call the second half? Like in my case, I started to live my halftime at 35 because of my wonderful experience. So when you speak to people in their 50s and 60s, are they also not able to answer the talent side as well? Or do you see them with more clarity?
For some of them, it's the first time they ever go through an exercise where they go through their talents. And what's ironic is that some of them have got $100 million that they've been able to create. So I sort of jokingly say, hold on, you just created a 100 million business and you can't tell me what you're good at? And so they go, oh,
you've got a point,
taken,
right?
Point taken. Yeah. So, I mean, someone like that is doing things automatically, right? Obviously has amazing talents. You don't create a $100 million business out of nothing without having great talents. But that person is on automatic mode. That person is not, and what I'm inviting them to do is say, well, why don't you switch to manual? Why don't you understand what's behind your brilliance? Because you've succeeded on the outside, right? Look, in terms of material wealth, you know, $100 million business, but there's such a great success you can have on the inside. And I ask them, is your outer success as great, is your inner wealth as successful, as great as your outer success? And they invariably say no. There's a gap there. So at the end of the day, wealth, you know, whether we're talking about outer wealth or inner wealth, it's one energy. It's wealth. But it's just a question of perspective. And in a sense, you need both, right? You need the outer wealth for your basic necessities, right? To, you know, shelter, food, etc. And the more of that you can have, wonderful, great, okay? And when you have outer wealth, the great thing is that it actually buys you time to concentrate on inner wealth.
Yeah.
Which because you don't have to think on a minute by minute basis like someone who's on the poverty line, right?
Yeah.
Yet so few people take advantage of that to really go in and go on the inner wealth journey, which I think is a shame.
So what are the elements that you feel are keeping us from that journey?
Sure.
Right? Why is it challenging to access, or is it just we've never done the exercise? Is it self-care and self-love? Is it gratitude? What is it?
I think you've just given all the answers, my friend. I love it. You and I are connected. I've got 4. I thought about this.
Okay.
I've got 4, which again I submit to everybody as food for thought. Right. Number 1 is that we're never taught really to what is inner wealth and how to access it. Okay. Maybe we're lucky to be brought up in an environment where the parents meditate, so the children sort of learn to go inside and connect with themselves. I mean, my wife meditates every night, and my 2 kids who are 11 and 7 love it. We all sit there and they meditate, and at that age, it's like learning a language, right? It's so much easier, and they go, it's nice to have a quiet moment with myself. The last 10 minutes, but it's a great gift that my wife is giving to the children. So we're not really taught. It's like parenting, right? Your only reference point is your own parents, right? And then you become a parent,
right?
Exactly, right? Let's not go there either, because your mother's in the other room.
Looks how I turned out, right? So we definitely have issues.
you turned out really good, mate. You turned out really good. So when we don't have reference points, it's pretty tough to know how to do something when we've never been shown it or taught it. Certainly, it's not something that we learn in school. Yeah. And so, you're lucky if you've come across family members or an environment which helps you go there early, because what it does, going there early allows you to build your self-confidence, allows you to know that you have an incredible energy inside you. Just an aside, did you know, Faisal, and this was in the book I read on the beach in Ibiza, that you have enough energy in you to keep a small city like Geneva, where I'm at, going for a week, just in your physical mass.
Wow.
So you come to Geneva, we can operate for a week. That's amazing, right? Wow. And that's just the tip of the iceberg of the energy that's inside us. And I get a lot of people who come to me who say, I feel I have an amazing energy. I feel I'm like a caged lion. I call them the caged lions,
Okay.
And they come and they say, but I don't have any words to put to this energy. I don't know how to access it. And I feel like I'm living in a box. Okay. And often it's linked with the growth curve we're on. Okay. So follow me with this.
Yeah.
We go to school, we learn new things, we learn to interact, and then we go to sometimes university, and for the first, let's say, 20, 30 years, there's so much external stimuli that we're building ourselves on the basis of outside events, which we're needing to react to, right? First job, new skills, then you become a manager and a leader, etc. But you get a point, often around 40, where the growth curve flattens. You've got 15 years experience in a certain area. You've reached a leadership position. And there aren't many rungs left, right? And you kind of know what you do. And the terrible thing is, you're super successful. You might have accumulated wealth, you got a house, you got all kinds of things, and you're going, but I've dreamt of being in this position, yet I'm not feeling great. And I explain, well, have you considered that what's happened is your growth curve has flattened? And why you're not feeling great is that you're no longer growing anymore, because the external stimuli are not there like they were for the first 30, 35 years. So what I say is, what an opportunity you have. People say midlife crisis. I say midlife opportunity. Yeah. What an opportunity you have to get that growth curve going again by going inside.
Inside, yeah.
Because there's such a journey to be had in terms of understanding the patterns of how you function, your decision making, what motivates you, and things like that. And that's the journey that I take people on. Sorry, I'm getting excited because it's truly my passion, and it's a little bit my life story. But so number one is we're not really taught it. Okay.
How are you teaching? Okay, but what about, let's make it tangible now, right? So we're not taught it. Your wife is leading by example on the meditation side. Obviously, you're exercising and working out on a daily basis. The kids see that, right? How are you teaching the inner journey? Are they seeing you journal? Is there what are they seeing that that a normal family would not get to see?
Okay, so the meditation is one. Another thing we do, which anybody on this call can do, is growth mindset. Okay, growth mindset is the mindset where everything is a learning opportunity, regardless of whether something is successful or not. And that, there we go. There's no such thing as success or failure, only what can I learn and grow. Okay. This is an opposition to a fixed mindset, which says I have a limited potential. I'm comparing myself to others, whereas a growth mindset person is comparing themselves to who they were yesterday, saying, have I grown? So very practical example that we do every night at the dinner table. We go around, my daughter, my son, my wife, and me, saying, how was your day? Okay. Connect to the feelings. And then we do a second round the table saying, what's the one thing you learned today? Okay. So my son will say, I learned to say potato in German, Kartoffel. All right. And my daughter will say, well, I learned how to do something with the iPad. We won't go there either. And I'll learn, right. Well, I learned a new exercise today on how to access the heart. Right. And we go around. And the point we're making with that very simple question of what's one thing you've learned today is that we're helping them realize that they are growing every single day. They're building themselves, they're growing. And that's something which, especially in an environment like the COVID one, which unfortunately uncertainty is going to be kind of the standard from going forth, right? Lockdowns, anyway. So being able to grow and adapt to any situation gives you an inner wealth and an inner confidence, which is an absolutely priceless tool going forward. And you don't have to be 7 years old. You can be any age to really accelerate this growth curve again with something like asking a simple question like that. Another example is, what's your first thought every morning? Okay, what's your first thought every morning, Faisal?
Well, look, I tell you honestly, I do most of the processing. Most of my processing happens at night. So the first thing in the morning when I wake up, I ask myself, how am I feeling? The same question that you ask your loved ones at the dining table. And from that, I move forward from that. And from that comes gratitude, right? Obviously that you're alive, but I really focus on what am I feeling in that moment, right? If you talk to people like Mikra and others, they will ask you, how are you breathing? How is your breathing? And that will tell you your state. And then from that state, you move to gratitude. And from that gratitude, you move to choice, right? You're choosing how to move forward.
Yeah. So the exercise, I love how you do it. Most people wake up with the sound of their telephone alarm clock, pick up their phone, check their mails, or look at the news, right? Literally is one of the first acts, right?
Wow.
The danger of that is that we often we're bringing the world into our home, our bed, and we haven't even sort of lifted let the light in, and you're hearing what's happening on the outside. So we're driven by external stimuli, needs, and requirements to which we are reacting, right?
It's their agenda. It's not your agenda.
That's it. So reverse that. Consider reversing that, saying, before I connect with the outside world, I want my first thought to be about me.
Yes.
All right. So that then I'm driven from the inside out. So first thought can be, today I'm going to be a great father. Or today I'm going to be a great friend. Or today's going to be a great day. Or I'm going to learn something new today, or, you know, have a
Whatever it
first
is.
thought, which just puts you first, because then the rest of the world will come in regardless. But at least your first thought, you're giving a message to yourself. I'm important.
Yes.
I matter.
Yeah.
I'm alive. I'm here for a reason. And so you can change it each day. And you can have a final thought as well, which either can be a gratitude for the day. What I do is I thank my mind and my heart for all of the work they've done during the day, right? I literally thank them. That must be a bit bizarre, but I thank my mind for having sort of gone through so many things during the day. And I say to it, listen, now it's time for all of us to rest. The body, the mind, the heart, let's regenerate. Let's, you know, let's wake up tomorrow with the fantastic energy so that we can bring that energy to the world and do new things, right? So it's literally, I'm having a conversation with myself, which works for me.
No, it's
going,
most important, right? Because nighttime, if you don't restore and recharge, you won't be able to crush it the next morning. So, okay, so your children know this, or they just, are they aware of what you just shared?
So the growth mindset, they do with the question. The meditation, they do. And they see me doing the first thought. My 7 and 11, it's a little bit, the first thing they think about is iPad in the morning. It's
well, no, let's not judge. Let's not judge. No, let's be, but look, it's, okay.
If I get a hello daddy before they say, can I have the iPad, that's already something pretty amazing. So I've got work to do there.
At least you're being honest.
Totally.
Many of us are still living in La La Land.
Well, it's the addiction of this generation is that, so anyway, that's another thing.
So that's the first thing you're saying, the how. Okay, the second you were going through when I kind of asked you to give examples.
Oh, yeah. So,
first one, second.
Not being taught.
Yeah.
The second one is the why is it difficult to access inner wealth? Because there's a perfectionist tendency in a lot of people, right? It's as if you have to be perfect. We're getting messaging of being perfect, you know, Photoshop pictures. Maybe even in our families, there's been that latent pressure of being perfect and always having to perform and live up to the legacy and name of the family. But the danger with that is that you don't find perfection anywhere. It doesn't exist in nature or elsewhere. You look at any tree, anything, it's never an exact thing. So we're behaving and we're setting a criteria which doesn't exist as our criteria to live. And hence there's always a frustration there. So getting over the perfectionist nature in people is one of the big sort of, let's say, obstacles you have to get over to then be able to truly access your inner wealth and say, you know what, I'm me and I'm perfectly imperfect.
Yes.
And you know what, everybody else is perfectly imperfect. And if we were all perfect, we'd all be robots and pretty boring. You know, I mean, the spice of life is in our imperfections. And so we need to embrace that rather than have it as an obstacle, because you never reach perfection. So that's the second one.
So basically a recipe for failure, right? That's just a recipe for disaster and failure.
Yes, correct.
Right? That's what you're, okay.
Yeah. And there's a lot of that perfectionist streak often comes from love within families where unconditional love is not present enough, and conditional love relating to performance. I'll love you if you perform.
Yeah.
I'll love you more if you perform more. Builds this thing of you know, but you never get to the level. There's always someone better. There's always something better. And so you're on a spiral. So there's a balance to be had between, yes, being driven forward. Yes, performance leads to results. It builds companies. It you know, but not letting it be such that actually it destroys you on the inside. Because as we know, outer wealth is wonderful, but inner wealth and outer wealth is a fantastic balance, right? And you need both. Okay. The fourth and fifth, which I'll combine because I want to get into some more strategies and that our listeners, Society's messaging. So this is based on the definition I said at the beginning. Society says success is outer wealth, right? So we've been messaged that our whole lives, and it's pretty tough to then just ignore that, okay?
Yeah, and our identity, unfortunately, becomes attached to that space, right? Because when all of that is taken away, when some of us like me experience the experiences we had, you go back to nothing, but it's the opportunity to be nothing to rebuild. And you ask the question, who am I? And that who am I is that inner wealth you're referring to, is what have I accumulated internally to be able to answer that question? And that, unfortunately, nobody taught us, right? Like you said, until the alchemy or the experience happens. So go ahead. Number 5.
Number 5 is time. People say they don't have time to go inside, right? So even though we know we want to go inside, we all know meditating is good for us. Yoga is good for us. Anything to do with our breathing, our connecting to ourselves, going for a walk is good for us, you know, fresh air, etc. Yet, how are we prioritizing our time? Okay, and a lot of people are stuck in, but I got 25 things to do, and I'll take care of myself when I've done the 25 things. Meaning that you put yourself last and you don't have the time. So what I say to the people who are doing that, I say, you know, we've all taken the airplane. And I know you don't look at the security briefing anymore, because I look in the airplane. When I came back from Ibiza, nobody looks at the security briefing anymore. But actually, there's a very powerful message in there where the steward or hostess, stewardess says, you know, in case of emergency, put your oxygen mask on, etc., tighten and breathe normally. If you're with someone else, put yours on first before taking care of the others. The whole message, I mean, that's a universal message given in a security plane context, so people switch off. But it's, you take care of yourself. You get yourself in a situation where you can breathe. You can help the entire plane if you've got an extension cord. But what do a lot of people do? They say, right, I'm going to take care of other people first, my kids, my family, etc. By the time you get to the third kid or the third person, you're kind of going, oh, I can't breathe anymore, and therefore you live in a state where you're not breathing properly. And ironically, the people you're trying to help are not getting the best version of you. So if you take care of yourself, you'll be at higher energy level. You'll be at sort of 80 to 100% phasal energy. And that's what all of your loved ones and your clients and your friends want from you. They want you to show up with 80 to 100%, not 60% sort of, you know, I can't breathe, because you'll be slower. You won't be listening to things. You won't be connected, etc. So the whole idea here is saying, don't let time dictate your agenda in terms of putting yourself last. Putting yourself first is actually a gift to all the people you interact with.
Oh, that's perfect.
Make sense?
I had somebody call me today, and he was telling me, he said, "Oh, the you know, one of our core team, obviously, you know all of them, said to me, he said, I put my business first, I put my family second, I put my friends third, and I put myself fourth." And he's saying the process now is to bring yourself first. And I said he was pretty polite that he said that you're fourth, because according to me, you're not even fourth. And he started to laugh.
Classic.
Right? I mean, I said he was actually kidding. So he's like, oh, that's, and he said, yes, you're right. So exactly to your point, that, you know, that's a huge issue. And that was the first thing I had to learn too, myself, right? That if you can't give what you don't have, right? And if the daily protocol is not respected to restore and recharge and fuel, like you said, refill, right? Whether it's the morning meditation, the end of the day meditation, etc. I won't go into it because I want to listen to the tools and strategies from the lawyer Jonathan,
Okay, yeah, the ex-lawyer, Jonathan. That's
Yes.
better, I think. Okay, so in the time we have, I'm gonna take you through 3 exercises. It's a
Okay.
temporal flow. Okay.
Okay.
I can follow this up with some videos that we can send
Yeah.
to all the participants and more detail, right?
Yeah.
But basically, there's a temporal flow, past, present, and future. Okay. Our future becomes our past. But we experience life always in the present.
Yes.
Right? That's how we experience life. Even though we might be thinking about the future and thinking about the past, we're always in the present, right? Yeah. But actually, they're all interchangeable in the sense that present was once future, becomes past. You get the point. So there's 3 exercises people can do. Starting with the past, all right? The past is, there's such a wealth of things that you have done and experienced that we don't tap into to better understand our patterns, and I know you don't like the word functions, but our systems of life. Okay, so what I do is I invite people to come up with their 10 life moments. By life moment, I mean a moment that is like a heart moment, meaning you can remember this moment even though it might have been 30 years ago, just like it was yesterday. Literally the smells, what you were wearing, who was there, etc. You know how we say heart-to-heart conversations are very powerful and connecting to the heart? Well, by identifying 10 life moments or heart moments and listing them, revisiting them, and just in yourself or with someone else, what we managed to come up with is understanding the patterns of what you've been doing your whole life, but in different clothes. Okay, because we repeat so many things. Okay, I'll give you an example. I took a lady through this yesterday, and we came up with a mnemonic of her 6 patterns that we identified, and it actually ended up being succeed. It's quite incredible. But basically, number 1, she's been receiving signals from the universe from a very early age. Coincidences of meeting people over and over again where you're going, right, okay, so signals. So I said, right, well, listen, if you're getting signals or whatever, tune into it. It's fantastic. Go with the flow. That was the S. U was, she has a unique story. She's been in Afghanistan and war zones, etc. And to remember that her story is unique. I know we're all unique, but she's really, there'll be a book coming out on her in the future. Because she doesn't feel she's had an extraordinary life, but I'm going, wow, I'll be, okay. So SU, signals, unique. I won't go through all of them, but basically the other ones are environment is very important to her. She needs a very nurturing environment. And when she doesn't have that, she can't operate properly. Another thing is dependency. She realized through the 10 life moments that she's overly dependent for energy and emotional support on other people. And so the result of going through your past and uncovering your patterns allows you to understand how you react today, what things lift you up or bring you down. And that's an exercise which anyone can do, but people don't do, which means that when something happens, you can actually observe yourself saying, I know what's going on. I know what's going on. I might not like it, but I know that I know why this is happening because I've looked at my past, okay? So that's the past, all right? The present, there's an energy of the present, which you see everywhere in nature, okay? To give you an example, a tree epitomizes this energy that is available in nature and which also applies to us. So very briefly, a tree has roots, which anchors it, which keeps it in the ground, and it's connected to other trees in the forest, okay? First source of energy with the water and the tree, what's its genius? It does photosynthesis, right? Luckily for us, taking light, converting it into oxygen, all right? And where's a tree going? It's always going towards more light. That's its energy source, right? So that's why trees and forests are always trying to sort of battle for light. So you've got roots, photosynthesis and going towards its energy source.
Right. Yeah.
Now let's translate that into humans, okay? Our values anchor us, give us foundations, just like the roots of a tree. And if you think about it, all of your close friends, you probably share a lot of values together.
Yeah.
That's what brought you together. So just like in a forest where the trees are connected underneath by roots, we are connected by the people we love and interact with by values, right? So values. Number two, our genius, our greatest talents, right? Another source of energy of identifying our talents, just like photosynthesis for a tree. There's some things we do amazingly well, which is a source of energy for ourselves and for others. Important to know them. And lastly, our aspirations, just like the tree going towards more light. What's driving us? What's driving us to be a better person, to succeed, whatever that means to you. So this is what I call the power of 9 exercise. You identify your 3 values, your 3 talents, and your 3 aspirations. And every morning I get up and I do an exercise which connects me to the central alignment line. Because Faisal, if I said to you, if you live your values today and express your talents today and go towards your aspirations today, do you think you'll be high energy or low energy?
High, beyond high.
Do you think you'll be in a state of flow or in a state of
course.
Okay,
Non-negotiable.
All right. So this central alignment line, I call it, right, with your 3 values, your 3 talents, your 3 aspirations, allows you to know where your high energy state is, where your Faisal 100% is. Okay. Now we can't live on that line because, one, that would be perfection. All right. And life ain't made that way. We can't always express our talents, values, and things like that. But we want to live close to that line in an area like this, as opposed to going back and forth, which is energy sucking. So every morning I get up and I combine a breathing exercise, which I can send a video to everybody on the call, where I identify each one of these 9 things and I decide to apply it during the day. So I go, one of my core values is love. I love in everything I do. What am I doing? I'm combining a physical movement of creating a circle, up and then down, with consciously identifying one of these 9 elements and saying, I'm going to apply it in my day. And I'm breathing because I'm saying it, but it looks like this. Okay, so I'm doing the exercise in my head. So I'm combining my breathing, a physical movement, and consciously connecting to each of these things. Of everything I do with people, they say that just gives them such an energy boost. And what it does is that it connects you to your internal resources, which you then apply to your to-do list of 25 things, which when you get out the door, it's as if, right, I know who I am. I know what makes me great. I know where I'm going. Now give it to me, you know, give it. You throw whatever you want at me, challenges, things like that, you know, give it to me. As opposed to people getting up and going, there's these external stimuli, needs and requirements, and you're trying to match your internal resources to each one of them, which is so tiring, right?
And it feels imposing. It feels like everybody's imposing. And you're actually trying to avoid it, right? And duck it.
Yeah. So we've looked at the past, life moments, understanding your patterns to understand, creating greater inner wealth. We've looked at your energy of the present in terms of the power of 9, these values, talents, aspirations, with an exercise that helps you align, okay? Reinforcing your inner wealth. Now the future is about having clarity on the future. And what I invite people to do is create a vision of their future and then objectives to achieve that, okay? So I'll give you an example. My vision is to be myself in everything I do, helping myself and others become better people. Okay, it's about 16 words. When I say that, it inspires me. I feel like I'm connecting to my inside. So that's my vision. And it helps in my decision-making process in terms of what I choose to do and not do. Am I going towards being myself in everything I do? Authenticity.
Yeah.
Helping myself, oxygen mask, and others become better people. All right. You see, so this temporal flow, I think you get it now. Past is understanding your behaviors, present is your energy, and future is being able to see your potential and say, I'm going towards that. I can see my Mount Everest, and I'm going towards that with my vision and objectives that feed into that.
Oh, it's beautiful. Completely. Yeah, it's completely beautiful. Let's just see if we can take there's a couple of questions. So one of that says, how shall we be accepting our body if we cannot accept it? How can you make someone to accept their own body as it is? So I think this is, it's you're not accepting your own and you're trying to have somebody else accept theirs. So leading by example is not happening here, but do you have any comments on that?
So what comes to me is a quote by Oscar Wilde, okay? And who said, be yourself, everybody else is already taken.
Yes.
And he was right.
Warren Buffett uses it a lot, actually.
Right. So here's the point behind it. We use a lot of energy when we try to pretend to be someone we're not, okay? It takes us away from our alignment. We use a lot of energy when we aspire to be someone else, because all you can actually do is be yourself and a better version of yourself on a daily basis. The relationship to our body is a tough one because we're so messaged by the outside world on perfect bodies, on the perfect weight, on things like, you know, big muscles and things like that, that actually that's a perfectionist standard we can't meet. What I invite people to do is say, listen, you've come on this earth, or, you know, we won't talk about the origin of how we come here, but with the body. I'm 6'3", I've got gray hair, and it's kind of out of my control, right? And to say, accepting not only who you are, but the body you've come with, and saying, how can I turn this into my greatest asset rather than a liability, means that you apply the growth mindset to yourself. And taking care of your body is also a sign of being able to take care of yourself in a more holistic way. Okay? You often see people who sort of are very, very, let's say, connected with themselves, who are just able to regulate their body, to not overeat, to get enough sleep, and do things that right. That means that everything's aligned. Because if your body's out of whack and your mind and your heart are okay, the body out of whack is going to have a major impact, right, on your energy levels and things like that. So I don't know, it's a tough question to answer in about 2 minutes, but I hope that gave some food for thought.
To what extent does the inexorable drive to keep growing lead to the mere empty accumulation of knowledge and material things without deriving true joy? What about considering that we are all good enough, fully whole already, and journeying to that truth? Well, I think they've asked and answered the question, but anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. I mean, life is not what your life looks like.
Yes.
Life is how you feel on a daily basis, all right? Either you feel good or you don't, all right? And I know there's variations. You have good days, bad days. We all do that. We all have that. But it's very much based on life being an experience to be lived. And I always think on my deathbed, hopefully in a long time, I'd like to be able to say, you know what? I don't have any regrets. I made the choices I had. I did the things I did. I loved the people I loved, and etc. And I wouldn't change a thing. Okay? Because you know what? I was myself every day of my life. And I don't control the outcome of being myself, but I do control the fact that I was myself and not someone else. That is in my sphere of influence. And so And I invite people to look at themselves in the mirror. I like the oxygen mask on the plane and things like that. I invite people to look at themselves in the mirror. And most people don't even look at themselves. They shave or they brush their teeth. They're not look at yourself physically. All right, just take stock for 5 seconds, and then look at yourself on the inside, connecting with your values, your talents, and your aspirations. And what happens is that you close the gap between the outer and inner, because it's all one. We're all one energy. Even wealth, outer wealth, inner wealth, it's all energy. It's all wealth. It's just different forms of the same thing. So maybe to finish on this answer is that we are all different forms of the same thing. We are energy, we are matter, we are consciousness, we are and when you look at yourself, think, I'm one. 2 words that prove that. Alone. Okay, alone, the word alone. All one. Okay, I don't know if you've heard that one before.
No, I haven't.
All one, right? Yeah. And universe, the word universe. Yeah. Universe. One song. We're all part of one song. And my question and my invitation to everybody on this call is, what instrument are you going to play in this big song? And what notes are you going to add to the music of this orchestra?
All right, Jonathan, thank you very much. We're already over time. Is that
okay?
Good? You want to have closing remarks, or was that your closing remark in terms of the song and the note, and what should we, how should we show up during this interesting experience that continues? Some of us were, I'm sure, hoping that this would kind of blow over by now, but looks like we're in it for a little longer.
Yeah, I'd like to finish with something, which is this period is inviting us to really focus on our inner wealth, because inner wealth includes our inner confidence. It includes our foundations. We all had a lockdown of 6 weeks where a lot of people went into self-awareness because there was nothing else to do, and discovered some fantastic things. And because this is going to carry on, it seems, the more you reinforce your inner, the better you will fare. Because I'm seeing a lot of people who appear very stable now on medication, going into depressive states because of the uncertainty which they realize is going to prolong, and they haven't done the work on the inside. So I mean, I also deal with a lot of leaders and companies and things like that, and I say, beware the erosion of inner confidence, because you start having people who leave work because they're in a depressive state, that brings everybody down. So reinforce the inner confidence of people, because what's happening is the foundations of society are shaking, right? The way we move, the way we work, interact, everything. We can't even hug each other anymore, right? We can't even, which is tough for people like you and me, right? And a lot of people on this call. They're very, and so with the foundations of society moving, we need to make sure that internally things are strengthened, because we're not getting that support. What I wanted to finish with is 3 questions, if I may. 3 questions just to leave everybody with in terms of inner wealth. Number 1, how many lives am I able to improve while I'm alive? Okay. Number 2, how can I sit with myself and feel I have everything I need? Okay. And number 3, how can I connect with myself and the world at large and be at peace?
So we'll send those 3 questions along with the recording. Very deep, right? And very thoughtful. So we'll send that together, and then obviously we'll send the follow-up videos. But Jonathan, as always, thank you very much. I know you say ex-lawyer, but obviously there is the lawyer structure inside. So please be grateful and in gratitude of that moment in time, of those 15 years of serving the people that are on this call in terms of protecting their their, outer wealth. And now you get to do the same for the inner wealth. So you're really closing the loop and being you to create and impact more people for them to be better, in the words of your vision. So thank you very much. Thank you everyone for the honor and privilege to be here. Thank you for the time. Next week we have Anissa that's going to be back and going to be talking about the patterns and the beliefs that drive our behavior. The week after that is a topic that many of us are challenged with, and that is sleep. We're going to have Michel Gollet really deep dive into what is sleep and the forms of sleep and how we can achieve better. And after that, there's Peter Vogel from IMD, the professor of family business and family offices, that's going to join, talk about the 5 touch points of healthy family enterprise. So thank you, everyone. See you next week. Thank you, Jonathan. Truly an honor and privilege. Truly grateful. Thank you. And to everyone, we will be sending some videos and of course the recording soon as well with the 3 questions that Jonathan just shared. Okay, thank you. See you next week. Bye-bye.
Take care, everybody.
Take
care. Bye, Faisal.